Hi, I'm Dr. Chris Phelps, a dentist from Charlotte, North Carolina, and I'm here to talk to you about the difference between my tracking service and other tracking services out there, okay? And it basically boils down to this. Every other tracking service out there is going to give you what I call the half-truth, right? My company, we're going to give you the whole truth, okay? And here's why and what that means. Well, the half-truth. All of you know that when you do call tracking, right, we put tracking numbers out there on all the different ad sources that are available. So you may have a different number on your website, a different number on your direct mail, a different number on your radio ad, etc. Okay? Well, the half-truth is going to tell you the total number of calls that came in for each tracking number. So in this example, it's 100 website calls, 3 radio calls, 20 direct mail calls came in from those tracking numbers. Okay? Is it good data? Definitely, right? Okay, especially if you're not doing anything, right? Some data is better than nothing, but it's just scratching the surface to the truth, okay? And you're going to see why in a second. Number one, out of all of those calls, we're tracking that 45% of all of those calls are not new patient calls, which is really what we want to know, right? How many new patients did we possibly could have got from this advertisement? So what are they? Well, they're vendor calls like Shine or Patterson or Benco calling your office. They're sales calls for people trying to sell you stuff. And the majority of them, they're actually your own existing patients calling. So they're not new patients. What does that mean? Okay, well that tells you half the data that's coming in from these guys is inaccurate. It doesn't work, right? It's not true. Here's another important thing that makes us different. Every other tracking company out there, you know, hot name or a hot topic in our field today is that they track the ROI. Everybody's tracking the ROI for you. Well, the reality is they're basing their tracking and calculations off this half-truth. So what does that mean? We've already shown you that half of that data is wrong and inaccurate. So guess what that means about their ROI calculations for you? They're wrong as well. We are the only company that tracks the ROI the correct way by using the whole truth. Okay? So be careful. Just because someone says they track ROI does not mean they're tracking it correctly. So how do we take it a step further and prove that we track the whole truth? Well, we use something called dynamic number insertion. Okay? Google it. Look it up. It is the only way to track online advertisements properly to find out how many actual new patients did you get from that online advertisement. Okay? We use live people to listen to every recorded phone call, and they're listening for an important question. How did you hear about us? And if what the person on the phone says is different than the tracking number they called from, we recalculate the numbers for you. So if they're calling from your website tracking number and they said, I heard you on the radio, we give the credit back to the radio because that, in my opinion, is the source that drove them to the website initially, got them interested, and they just picked up the phone and called from the number in front of them when they saw what they liked. Okay. Another thing we find is on the half-truth versus the whole truth is when you do a lot of marketing, 80% of your phone calls come from your website, okay? Which is, when you factor in this half-truth question, or the how did you hear about us question, if you will, we actually start getting to the full truth of how many calls are coming out of that thing. So when you recalculate it, it changes the story, it changes the spectrum. So in our example, when we recalculated it based on the how did you hear about us and our dynamic number insertion, what happened? Well, there's actually only 10 potential new patient calls coming from the website, not 100. The radio showed us 3 initial calls, right? But guess what? The whole truth showed us, well, we actually got 33 potential new patients from the radio, okay? Direct mail was 20 calls. Now it's 50 potential new patient calls coming in from the direct mail pieces, okay? So you can already see it significantly changes the landscape of what's working and what's not working, right? Well, guess what? Out of all those calls, 30 of them were existing patients, vendor calls, or sales calls. So we're not even going to count those guys, okay? So remember, because we have live people listening to every call, there's no data we can't pull out of the phone call. We pull out the actual patient's name that scheduled the appointment for you. Okay? Then we work with your team to track what that person spends in your office, right? At 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, and a year. Every quarter we look at it and show you, well, Doc, you spent this on the advertisement. You got this actual number of new patients from these ad sources, the whole truth. They've spent a total of this. That's how you calculate the return on the investment. So we can show you with accurate data, okay, whether something's truly working or whether it's truly dragging you down and killing your marketing. So I encourage you, don't be fooled by the half-truth. If you want to learn more about the whole truth, reach out to one of us and we can help you.